right now.
Yeah.
Don't let her act like it's miserable.
Oh yeah, I do. I've got. I couldn't go on Saturday because I was in Charleston. One of the kids. Oh, I started to RSVP and I was.
Can I say hello to Gene?
Yeah, you can.
Hello, Gene.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone. If we could, we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. And now we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here.
Here.
Present.
Here.
Here.
City Manager Nick Stanfield. City Attorney Brian Bailey.
Here.
Finance Director Susie Johnston.
Here.
Chief Mike Posey.
Here.
Chief Jimmy Settle.
Here.
Building Code Zoning Enforcement Officer Marty Lewis.
Here.
Street Commissioner Mike Starrett.
Here.
Sanitary Director Dee Evans.
In observance of National Emergency Medical Service Week, May 21st through the 27th, we have a proclamation where we would like to recognize our excellent staff and personnel. I'll read the proclamation and then I'll ask council to please accept that after reading. And we have with us in the audience JT from the ambulance emergency squad. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service where members of EMS teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas members of emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. I now call upon all citizens of Weston to observe the week of May 21st through 27th as National Emergency Medical Services Week, recognizing the value and the accomplishments of EMS providers and the vital service they provide. And now I'll ask council to approve the proclamation.
I move to approve the proclamation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. JT, would you like to come up front and?
Yes, somebody's,
Yes,
Becca's
somebody-
key. Judy.
Would you like to say anything?
Thank you very much. It's been a whirlwind.
I'm sure. Yes, it has with COVID. You want to come behind and we'll all stand for the picture. It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know how you love Photoshop. I'm pulling this up. Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you,
very
Katie.
much. Thank you. Next on our agenda is recognition for National Police Week, which is May 15th through the 21st. Do we have any police officers here? Okay. Whereas in 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. Established by a joint resolution of Congress, National Police Week pays special recognition to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. And whereas the International Association of Chiefs of Police has declared law enforcement officer safety and wellness a top priority, and the IACP Center for Officer Safety and Wellness promotes the importance of individual, agency, family, and community safety and wellness awareness. And whereas the members of the Weston Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of Weston. I call upon all citizens of Weston and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 15th through the 21st as National Police Week, commemorating police officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in so doing have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. If you'd like to come up, we'll get a photo.
Wear that coat.
Me too.
Work your ties. Yeah.
We thought we'd honor you since Ghost has said you're doing a good job.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Actually, there'll be three. firefighters, but they only get one day instead of a
At
week.
this time, we would also like to bring special attention to National Firefighters Day, which is May
I
4th.
know.
Whereas this year, our nation's firefighters will respond to more than 2,300,000 fires and 8,700,000 additional emergencies, saving thousands of lives and millions of dollars worth of property through their dedicated efforts. Whereas the firefighter job is by far one of the nation's most dangerous and their sacrifices many. Whereas by honoring firefighters, we pay special tribute to the spirit of community and the unselfishness that is such an integral part of their character. I call upon all citizens of Weston to observe May 4th, 2023 as National Firefighters Day, recognizing the selfless giving of firefighters and the vital service they provide.
I'll second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
He's coming.
I get one day and everybody else gets a week.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Why is that?
If I can get Cooch Drive changed to Cooch Street, I'll look into changing that. Let's just go.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Keith.
It's been a pleasure to honor all of your departments and for the valuable service that you provide. Thank you. Okay, and next we'll move on to the visitors section where we have Cindy Crislip listed first. Cindy Crislip. Okay, we'll hear from Brenda Reed.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm here to speak in support of increasing fines for the nuisance dogs.
Is
Is it
my
not turned on?
That better?
Thank you.
I'm here to speak in support of increasing fines for having nuisance barking dogs. I want to thank council for passing this ordinance. I want to thank the police for enforcing it, but it does not seem to be achieving what it was designed to do the way it stands right now. I don't think people who live in a neighborhood with this problem understand what it's like. And so on April 4th, for my own interest, I began to jot down how many times I heard bursts of dog noise in my neighborhood between 6:30 and 8:30, 2 hours. 6:30, dogs at house A bark. 6:35, dogs at house A bark. 6:50, dogs at house A are barking. 7:05, dogs at house A are barking. 7:20, dogs at house A are barking. 7:30, at this point, the people at house C let their dogs out. They don't bark so much that evening, but the dogs at house B go crazy and they bark for 10 minutes. And that takes care of 7:30 to 7:40. 8 o'clock, dogs at house B bark. 8:07, dogs at house B are barking. 8:15, dogs at house B are barking. 8:16 to 19, dogs at house B bark and dogs at house A join in. 8:21, dogs at house A bark and dogs at house B join in. 8:24, dogs at house B bark. 8:26, dogs at house B bark. That's over 10 incidences of noise in 2 hours. And these dogs aren't Rin Tin Tin. They aren't saving soldiers. They aren't Lassie telling you that the barn's on fire. And they aren't even devoted pets alerting to a burglar crawling through a window. They're dogs that believe that every space they see is their territory and everyone or thing they see in it needs to be driven out of sight. This is not friendly. I'm a dog. Do you like dog barking? This is scolding, aggressive barking. And it really makes no sense. And here's an example. I back my car out of my garage. My neighbor's dog goes nuts. They run to the fence, they bark. My car passes, they run around their house, run to the fence, bark as I leave. I come home, same thing, too loud bursts of barking that my neighbors all have to listen to. Those dogs have been there for years doing this. It's not a matter that they're not used to me. I roll down the window and say, hey guys, it's me. You don't need to do this. In fact, I've lived there longer than they have. They've seen me drive my cars from the first day of their arrival. And what they're doing is making senseless noise, 2 bursts of noise that everyone in earshot has to endure. If I got a noise machine and I put it in my yard and subjected my neighbors and all within hearing distance to loud, unpredictable bursts of noise of various durations that could occur day and night, no one would say that was acceptable. No one would say noise machines make noise. That's what they do. They would say, you have a noise machine in your yard. Take it in your house or change it so it's not making everyone crazy. It's asking a lot to ask for people to be stuck in their homes passively enduring these noise machine dogs. We have in our neighborhood disabled people, babies, children, retired people, and working people who want to come home to a pleasant environment. The owner of these noise machine dogs apparently do not care that they created disturbance. Clearly, their pets being a nuisance doesn't bother them, and they aren't embarrassed by having the police arrive with complaints. And the current fines don't move them to change the situation. I've talked to many good dog owners, and they say to me, I put my dog outside, and when I hear 3 or 4 barks, I bring him in. No one needs to listen to my dog bark. I wish everybody felt that way. Some do not. And some who do not care about other people might well care about their pocketbook. Increasing the fine seems to be a logical next step, and I ask you to support it with your vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Did you want to say anything?
Brenda, I hope that you'll stick around we're going to work on that ordinance this evening, and we would like your input. It's on the agenda, if you feel like it. Thank you. Gail, the same. Thank you. Gail is Brenda's neighbor.
Oh, okay, and do they have copies of that proposed? Would you have a couple available so they can look that over? Okay. Okay, we'll move on to the approval of minutes. You have minutes from the regular session and the special session. And I think there's one correction
I made that with Judy.
on the regular or special.
The regular.
Okay. Does anyone else have any additions or corrections?
I'll move to approve upon correction.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second to approve the minutes of the regular and special sessions, noting the correction on the regular minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and next we have a list of meeting dates for our boards and commissions. Cemetery Board, July 10th at 9 a.m. Landmarks Commission, May the 11th at 5 p.m. Planning Commission, July 12th at 4 p.m. Parks and Rec, May 19th at 4 p.m. The Lewis County EDA, May 24th at 5 p.m. Zoning Appeals, May 9th at 6 p.m. Code Appeals, May 18th at 6 p.m. Neighborhood Watch, Monday, May 22nd at 6. What is SWA? Sorry, thank you. Next meeting of that group is July 19th. And there are some positions available. The Board of Zoning Appeals has one plus an alternate. And the Parks and Recreation Board has 2 vacancies. We really need to fill those slots. So if anyone at all has an interest and can spend a little time attending a meeting at least once a month, we'd sure love to have them.
Cemetery board as well.
Oh, and the Cemetery Board, 1 position available. Okay. Next, Sanitary Board report.
Good evening. The phase 1 project has wrapped up, and other than getting them their final documents, that project is finished. Phase 2, we're getting ready to submit the preliminary engineering report for an application to IJDC by May the 10th. And that particular project, as well as the Route 33 water and sewer project, both passed the first review of congressional funding. And those will go on to the second phase of that. I won't reiterate anything else on the report as far as the plant and the collection and pumps. You've got that report, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer any of those. We've been spending a good bit of time figuring out what we need to do and what we can do financially on Station 7. That's the corner station where the bypass pump is, and dealing with those issues there. That's been the main concern this past month. Myself in the office, other than the regular reports and duties that I normally have, I'm working with the guys on Station 7 and on the phase 2 project. I've worked on the water terminations that have resumed in the last couple months, and within the last 3 working days, we've submitted close to 100 water terminations for collections on those past due accounts. So people are starting to take note and starting to make payment before we have to get to that point. So that's the goal, and hopefully that'll continue and we don't have to get so aggressive with that. If y'all have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, our meeting is 4:30 next Monday.
Oh, I've got one. I've got a question. On the collections, so you took the avenue of the water being shut off like in the past, or
Mhm.
that started
When
again?
COVID started, we that kind of went by the wayside for a while because people just really didn't have the means to pay a lot of that. And then some of the agencies were paying more on those and the need wasn't there. And now that some of that funding has been taken away and people have just not been paying, and the office itself has gotten more aggressive with collections on that. So
During COVID, was that a decision between the sanitary board and the water company?
that was
To-
the decision of the sanitary board, not to get that aggressive with it.
I wasn't sure if
The
it,
water company and the gas company and the electric company all kind of dropped those, that much aggressiveness with the utilities during COVID themselves. And then it kind of started up slowly, and we just gotten to the point now where they're gonna have to
Back.
pay to collect it, so.
I got you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee.
I have a question, Dee. How's it looking for getting the critical need and being able to get into those funds possibly to fix
For Station
Station
7?
7? Yeah.
We're gonna revisit that at our board meeting next Monday and talk about whether it's feasible for us to get the critical need funds for that, or if it's something that we're gonna do in-house. In order to get critical needs funding for that, they're gonna make sure, or they're gonna request that we use ARPA funding for that first and foremost, and there you have it.
So that money that that you have to put aside for emergencies, that's considered that critical money, right? Or is that
The critical money would come from
the DEPs?
mhm.
Okay, what about the funds that you have to set aside for an emergency that they make you? What is that?
Through the Senate bill.
Bill,
Senate bill?
yeah.
No, there isn't any of that set aside for that at this particular time.
So they tell us what we can spend that on. They mandate. the sanitary
If we
board.
had that money there, we could spend it on that. That's why the rates are called in. That's why we're gonna be raising rates to be able to fund that particular Senate bill that we talked about with you guys at the meeting, to be able to fund that particular account. And right now, we're not able to fully fund that particular account. So those funds aren't there for us to do something like this.
We have any funds in our account?
Minimal, I think 2,000 to 3,000.
I understand. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dee. Next finance report.
Brought you all this evening,
the bank statements, because we just got them this afternoon. So you have those to go over. And at this point, I'm asking to move $848 from the general fund to the vacant structure fund. And we had $12,060 in it, and after we add the 848, we'll have $12,908. So if we could move that.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to move $848 from general fund to vacant structures.
I move to transfer $848 from the general fund to the vacant building fund.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah.
Motion carries.
Also, for the month of April, the hero banners, hometown hero banners, we collected $1,725. So that made a grand total of $4,700. And for the welcome sign, we didn't make nothing for the month of April, but the total amount for it was $650. We got reimbursed for the stormwater refund, 2 checks. One was in the amount of $36,041.74. And the other one was $23,755.71. On April the 21st, the sales tax was deposited in the amount of $158,939.26. And last but not least, my municipal fees. Last year at this time, we had $313,285, and this year's a little over 290,000. I'm down by $22,617. But today I got another 1,000, Herb, if that makes you feel any better. And also at this time, I would like to announce that I will be retiring from the city on June the 2nd. And I'd like to thank the mayor and all council and my coworkers. It's been a pleasure working for the city, and I love my job, but I'm turning 65 and it's time for me to spend time with my family and Daisy. So yeah, I will miss each and every one of you.
Well, thank you for the wonderful job you've done. Susie.
Thank you, Susie.
You're welcome. Y'all have any questions or anything?
Questions for finance? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Susie.
Next, street department.
The packets in the in your all's minutes over there. The only thing that I would like to say is we've had 3.5 loads of on the pickup spring cleanup. We had 3.5 loads of the large dumps, and they will be removed tomorrow. It was pretty successful. I know there's still more out there, but I just want to say thanks to the guys for working and going out and picking up stuff. They were really busy last week. And the other thing that I would like to say on my report there, about halfway down, probably we formed up the handicap ramp on the end of the 4th Street Bridge, which is the one that crosses the Poe Creek. And we did put a handicap ramp in there, so it's completely done on that end now, okay? Other than that, that's all that I have. Other than the Terrace Avenue update, I spoke with Nate today on that, and State Road, after many hours of sending out emails, and thanks to Mr. Gum out there at the 911 center, and we were turned down through the state to help us take that slip out. So now what I'm going to do, and I spoke with Nate, we're going to reach out, and I got a quote on a long reach hoe to go over there and take out that slip. This quote that I have is $2,220. And that does not give us an operator. That just gives us a piece of equipment. That's one of them. And the other one is another quote is $2,531.25. And that will give us the operator and remove all the materials, but we have to haul it out. So like I said, I spoke with Nate on that, just keeping you all informed. That's where we're at on the Terrace Avenue slip over there. And doesn't look like it's going to come out this week, or maybe by the end of next week it might come out, but we've had all this rain again and we're back to square one with all the rain.
Can I ask a question about that, please?
Sure.
Since this was caused by the homeowner, is this being billed to the homeowner?
At this present time, we have sent them notices that what we've got into this, into all the taking down the trees and trees falling down, fell on the road, and all that has been billed to them. And I think I spoke with Marty. I think they have 30, 60 days. I'm not real sure on the amount of days that they had to come in and pay on that. But as we go on further, we will be adding more to it and sending them an invoice on it. Yes.
The home's currently for sale on Realtor listing. Yeah. So, yep, we'll see what we can do there. So we've invoiced them. They haven't paid, to clarify.
The only other thing I think was we were going to talk about that.
Yeah. On Friday, I wanted to mention to you before we'd already put our agenda and stuff together. We received in the mail unsolicited 4 agreements from Department of Highways to essentially reflect the same agreement that we had on 4th Street Polk Creek Bridge project, where the state would come in and do work on 4 more city bridges. Those bridges were 4th Street Arch Bridge over West Fork, Center and Court bridges. So those are 2 bridges, and Howe Street Bridge. So at this point, we haven't signed anything or even looked at them. Like I said, didn't include them in the work for today, but in a future meeting, those will be included in the agenda for your consideration. But it looks to me, I just flipped through the grant agreement. Maybe a few things have changed, but it's a similar agreement that we just encountered with Polk Creek, where the state would essentially come in and take over the bridge and design a project and do what they want and then turn it back over to us. They did ask us for our comments on what we'd like to have or any kind of issues that we want to see addressed through the project. So those are things I think to be thinking of. And also the projects, I think the genesis of all this is that all these federal infrastructure dollars that are coming down. There's no guarantees that they'll do these projects from what I understand, just that they're going to consider them and then let us know, I think, at a further date after they've inspected them and things of that nature. So that's all I know at this point. Like I said, there wasn't.
Was there any percentage made? Numbers?
I don't think there was any local match. I think it was strictly federal dollars from what I could see. So,
It better be nice.
yeah. Reading the agreements, I said after going through this last experience, there's a few things I think I would suggest we change or ask if we can change, but I'm not sure what, like I said, just came in the mail. There was no phone call or anything like that. It was, I probably should call, and make sure it's real, but as far as I can tell, it is.
Any questions for Mike?
Thank you, Mike.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next police department report.
The only thing I'd like to add is the 2 new cruisers received on grant are in-house. We're just waiting on the rest of the equipment to get them outfitted and scheduled for that.
Any questions about the report in your packet?
A lot of calls. I read through it over the weekend.
I like to say Officer Minnie did a good job at the neighborhood watch meeting the other night.
Thank you.
Oh.
I was a little concerned.
Compliment him on that. Well, you know, what he said was pretty much fact, so. It was nice having the representation there.
Much for that, good job.
Okay, thank you. Next fire department report.
So I really don't have anything extra. You can see in the packet, we had to buy some tires for the ladder truck. We did have 2 blowout coming down 33, so it's lucky it didn't tear the truck up more.
Mhm.
So we went ahead and replaced it and had one set of turnout gear that was damaged. It was unable to be fixed. Had to replace it.
Can you speak to that tire situation a little bit more? You've got a little bit of an interesting story on that, don't you?
Yeah, according to the NFPA, we're supposed to update tires every 7 years, whether they're needed or not, so. We're not really far from it, but we're a little bit away from it. But that ladder truck that was purchased in 2010, the tires that was on it were 2004 tires. So whenever the truck was purchased, nobody really paid attention to the tires on it. We just figured it was new tires. So I'd say they had them in storage and big container somewhere and still on there. The tire was 20 years old.
I'm surprised there were any tire left.
They just don't have any miles on them, so they don't really get worn too bad, but he's lucky. Won't happen again.
What's a fire truck tire cost?
We got the 2 we had to do road service on was about $1,000 a piece because we couldn't get on state contract because of the road service. But the rest of them was on road service, right around $800 a piece.
Okay. Questions
you.
for Chief Settle? No? Okay, thank you. Building code zoning. You have Marty's report in your packet. We have a tentative work date for the one that just got approved for demo.
Friday, he sent me a message that he would like to be able to start them. He's going to do the West Second one first. And he wanted to start at the end of this week. I don't know if the rain's going to set him back any, but he wanted to start the end of this week and then move straight from that one to North River.
Okay.
A lot of high grass out there.
I know, I've been writing up a lot of yellow door hangers.
Marty, I seen your violation. You had 14 violations. What's the vast majority of violations? What are they?
Grass and trash. They're probably pretty much equal.
Yeah.
And I went out with the street department on several here last week and we did do several trash cleanups. So that helped some of it.
Yeah. And then I want to speak out of turn, but I spoke with the city manager today and the 2 addresses we were talking about, 451 and 210. There was actually, and I may have spoke with you last week about the gas line, natural gas line. It runs in the front on the berm, right in the edge of the grass there at 451. And hadn't seen, I've been covering town, I hadn't seen that they call them misutilities or anything yet to tear those down, so I was just kind of.
I left him an email and a voice message today to make sure he called 811 to get those marked out.
Yeah. I just want to make sure we get there to mark them,
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
On the vacant properties that needs mowed, have we started issuing those addresses out to our lawn contractor?
I will. I've started making a list of those today, actually.
I just have some people in my ward have been complaining.
Yeah. I try to get a hold of the people that own the property first, give them the opportunity, but if they're not going to do that, then I'll have our non-compliant mowers move in there and take care of it. And we'll send them an invoice.
Any other questions for Marty?
I had one last one, as far as the vacant structures, are we seeing any feedback as far as people trying to get businesses in or doing things in vacant structures?
Not particularly. We get a few that pay and don't really question it. We get a few that pay and complain about it. And then we get some that just flat out ignore it. And those are the ones that have liens placed against them now, because we billed them our obligatory 3 times and gave them the chance. And the way the liens are written up, any future, if each quarter they continue to ignore it, we can just keep adding to that.
So we're coming up on July 1. Would be the second year, so those fees will increase each quarter.
Yeah. The second year they increase, and then
To
the third, and
500.
fourth. Yeah. I did speak with Adam Gissy yesterday and asked him what Greg Smith planned to do with the Danzer building. And he said for sure they wanted to put apartments upstairs. And he wanted some kind of retail on the first floor, but not a restaurant. And that's as far as he knew.
Well, I do know that there have been people interested in renting and purchasing the old Frank's Bakery building, and that owner is not interested in anything. And I mean, these people have viable business plans. So is she still working on it? I noticed there's
Yeah.
a problem with her roof. Have you noticed the turret on the roof
No, I haven't.
patched?
I'll go take a look at it.
Yeah.
I think a few of those within that building, the empty spaces or whatever, like the old Frank's Bakery on the corner. She has a few things in there, but to me, it's vacant.
It is.
And that's something I think we need to look at instead of letting people buy that's just slinging a few things, blankets or pictures in a place and saying it's occupied.
Right. And we've had that discussion with several people, whether it's residents or business, they'll the way the ordinance is written, it says whether, you're occupying it on a daily basis, whether you're living there, conducting business out of it on a daily basis or whatever, not just, hey, once every 4 months, we walk in there and clear the cobwebs.
Right.
And that's how we've tried to base, the billing and the registration as well.
It's a good
And
point.
utilities.
Mhm.
Utilities is another threshold.
Correct.
Utilities on them. I think there are some holes in that vacant structures ordinance, and it may not be. The vacant structures ordinance is a tool, right?
Sure.
And it may not be the perfect tool for us to be able to get vacancy increased or however we want to say that. So we can look at that further, but I think we've had many discussions between the city attorney, myself, and Marty about what we can do there. And there's just some places there where that vacant structure ordinance is not going to do the magic or put the pressure that we'd like on those owners.
However, I will commend you guys because as a result of passing that vacant building and structures, people have started renovating their building or repairing, we'll say, their buildings. And I believe there have been 4 new roofs go on buildings downtown. And as you know, we've lost buildings that the city and taxpayers have had to pay for. And that's a lot in our downtown area, 4 roofs and some new windows too, as well, that have happened.
We've definitely had a
As
lot
a
more
result.
interaction with the business owners because of that,
Right.
or the building owners, I should say.
Uh-huh.
But like I said, as far as being the cure-all for all of our problems down there, it's not going to be that most
Sure.
likely, but it's a tool. I'll just, a personal anecdote. I had a personal relationship with the Minuteman Muffler back in the day. And so I had called the owner personally to inquire about the building, and they're one of our people who have not responded at all, I don't think, or who are completely disregarding everything. And they're not meeting the requirements, and we build them and it's just sitting there still. And it's going to continue to sit there because there's nothing really else we can do at this point. My suggestion, I guess, is you get into this dilapidated building conversation where there's some ordinances on there where you can take possession of buildings through state code. Requires another ordinance. It requires more sitting on our hands and giving the owners requisite time to remedy the situation. But that is an option that's out there if we want to try to, I'm going to use the word, be more heavy handed. It's another increasing tool. But to go back to that Minuteman Muffler example, I think it's tied up in liens and state tax warfare and everything else. So like we've said with all these buildings, every building has its own story, every building has its own situation. And you continually are just slogging through these personal
Sure.
issues for each structure.
If we need a new ordinance, I'm sure we'll entertain a new ordinance based off of your
Yeah. I think we'll be a
recommendations.
year into this. So we'll try, the next month or two to kind of do a report on the vacant structures and say, this is where we stand. This is how many letters
Sure.
we sent out, and give a report back to council on who's paid, who hasn't. And then we can reassess where we're at and see what other tools we have.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have one other question, sorry.
Mhm.
People who have taken the siding off their houses and have put the wrap on, but no siding has been put on for like 2 years. What is the time limit on that? Or a roof that was taken off and you just have the sheeting with no shingles or aluminum there? What is the time period on getting these structures? Because when you have these structures in neighborhoods, it brings down the value of other people's homes, and it's not really fair.
That's a good question. I need to look and see what the zoning says on it. I'm not sure that the zoning book says you have to have wood siding, you have to have aluminum siding or whatever, but I can certainly look it up.
Well, it's better than having
Sure.
Lowe's writing all over the
Right.
place.
I'm going to add a little bit to that conversation, if that's okay. And Marge's exactly right. And when you look at the building code, it's this thick. And so every jurisdiction across America is usually using the same building code we're using. So think of the most stringent places. I'm going to say California, and I may not be being fair to them, who have 25 inspectors on staff and are inspecting every little plumbing fitting and everything like that. They're using the same building code that we are. And so we've taken, I'll just be very frank, kind of a loose interpretation, right? We don't try to be as stringent as California, one, because we don't have the manpower. And then two, I don't think anybody who lives in West Virginia necessarily wants to live in California. And so we've taken some liberty there, I think, with how we enforce the code and how strict we want to be. And a lot of that liberty goes to the code official and his discretion. But I think we'll find that there's areas there that we can really be nitpicky, for lack of a better word. And that becomes a kind of a policy and enforcement question for council about how far down deep in the weeds do we want to go when we're enforcing this code, and what kind of community do we want to have. Now, I think when we talk about a roof that has a tarp on it for 3 years, it's probably time to start doing something. But I'll remind you that the remedy will be do something about this, or we're going to come in here and do something about it. And so then that gets us into the mode of, are we going to put siding on people's houses? Are we going to put roofs on, things of that nature, if we're going to remedy these situations. So those are just things to consider, not to push back and say, no, I don't want to do it. But I think that's the path we quickly find ourselves on when we start treading down that direction. And it may be time, it may not be. Yeah, it's up to your guys' call ultimately.
Don't we start with a fine?
You don't necessarily get fined, I don't think, for a building code violation, or property maintenance. I mean, there's certain things that are nuisances, but because you don't have the right siding on your house, I don't think it necessarily rises to the level of public nuisance. Maybe it can. I think it's.
Depends on if
It's
you're the
close.
realtor trying to sell the
Yeah,
house.
right.
Or
Property
if you're the
value, yeah.
family beside of
Yeah.
it. and your property values are being
Yep.
damaged.
A corrective order would be the first step to say, okay, your gutter's falling off. Go out there and fix it.
Mhm.
And I did see one on 4th Street last week because I issued a corrective order. They went ahead and were fixing the gutter last week. It took them a couple of weeks, but they did it.
Sure.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, city attorney report.
All my general stuff is mishmashed and all this stuff as usual. I haven't really given too much thought into, I think last time y'all had some concerns or wanted to maybe take a different path on the codification stuff. I'll come up with some kind of better solution. If that's what you all are wanting. I think that's what I'm getting, that we want. Something where we're not.
Streamline it a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
better.
And so hopefully we can maybe get that streamlined a little bit and have a meeting to discuss that here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
And sorry, I'm going to take it one more time. I want to rehash the vacant building thing in the zoning ordinance. State code doesn't identify the vacant building structure program to be one that is intended to bring business or to cause people to sell it out to business.
Right.
It's a program to raise money for help for the protection, I guess, of police and firemen when they have to go into these buildings. And the zoning, this may fit in with some of the residential code. We've essentially plopped a zoning map down on an area that's never had zoning before. And so you naturally have buildings or houses or situations that don't fit in this zoning situation. And if somebody's obnoxious siding falls off, maybe they have to put in the kind of siding that zoning requires or the kind of siding that the building code requires. They just can't put in anything they want to. And so over the course of 100 years, 1,000 years, everybody eventually molds into formation or falls into line with what these zoning ordinances are intended to do. I don't know, that just popped up in my head as we were talking.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next city clerk, and her report is in your packet.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.
You know when the donut shop's gonna open? The donut shop?
City managers report.
Well, before we move on to city clerk, I think Aurora Spa is opening this month, right? The Saturday's a ribbon
Saturday.
cutting.
It's a ribbon
So
cutting.
that's one of our newest businesses in town to make that. And what time is that ribbon cutting? Anybody know off the top of their heads? 1 p.m.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
It's nice to have the Chamber of Commerce here.
So, I could sit here and I've got a couple bullet points on here. I'll go through those and I got some stuff also here on my notepad I want to share with you. The camera project, I called today and got an update for you all. We're going to sit down with Keith and E911 to set up a meeting to talk about tower access and getting up there. I think all the equipment is in from what I understand, sitting in my office. So that's where we're at with that. And that's hopefully going to happen in the next week and a half. Okay.
So after that happens, when can they actually do the installation of the cameras downtown?
The cameras can be hung as soon as they have internet, and the camera company that we used out of Clarksburg, they'll come in and hook those up almost immediately. So I think
Oh, good.
we just have to get internet to them. But otherwise, they're not even useful at that
Sure.
point.
Right.
So, yep. And then the annexation, I had a request to speak a little bit about that. Our attorney with Steptoe Johnson's been on radio silence. I haven't heard back from him. I think the mayor's been copied on some of those emails. We haven't gotten a response back from him. I did reach out to, in conversation with one of the county commissioners this past week and got a contact for Marketplace. And so I'm going to place a call with them as well, to see if I can at least touch base. I've never met the owners and see if there's some way to partner with them and see if there's some interest to come into the city and what that would look like. So that's all I have really to offer on that front at this point.
We're working on it, Nate, as far as in the background. What have we worked on so far as structuring? some type of presentation or something when we meet up with whoever it may be? How far have we gotten with that so far?
We have all the materials prepared.
We don't have a PowerPoint or anything at this point, but we've got a written kind of an intro to the city, and this is the services we can offer, and this is what it would entail for you if you annexed in. And it's not pretty, your property taxes go up, your B&O taxes, and you pay municipal fee, all that good stuff. But
Maybe something that you have an outline on so far, you could look at as well to
Yeah.
have some input as far as council at some point.
sure,
Yeah, can we go ahead and schedule that for a special session maybe and take a look at it?
yeah, I'll just email it to you first, if that's okay with you. I'll see what you think. But
Yeah.
that was something the mayor and I had worked on, and we presented that to Attorney Stump with Steptoe, because he'd asked it for as much to get to Walmart. So
And that, there are other annexation attorneys, I'm sure. I wonder who Buchanan used.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure anybody could do it to an extent, but reason we had worked with Steptoe was they had supposedly had a contact within corporate there to
Right.
speak to somebody. So
Well, and if someone else has done it, why reinvent the wheel?
sure. That was a consideration as well.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go down the list here of things and just kind of give you some brief updates. Congressional earmarks. I think we're 3 for 3 on our applications within the city sphere, or both sewer applications were forwarded. And we found out today our Columbia Club, Weston Cultural Center application was also forwarded. So they made I think it's just the first round of clearances. Now, I think some folks with Mansion's office seem to be more positive towards that and saying, yeah, well, now we're just waiting on the budget. But I think that's where the rubber hits the road and they decide which projects they actually want to fund.
Listen, it's election. It's gonna be election coming up.
Yep, right. I think so.
Work it.
We'll see. And so, yeah. We're still working on the station number 7. We've had multiple meetings with Thrasher to try to hash out some old design issues. And I'll just kind of give you the Spark Notes version. The Weston system was designed for 35,000 people in year 2000. We've definitely not eclipsed that mark at all. And so all of our pumps were sized, from what we can tell from all the past records and our current pumps, for that 35,000 person system. And so before we get into installing replacement pumps for that 35,000 person system, we're going to reassess our operating regime and see if we can downsize our pumps and make it more appropriate to our current loading scheme. So that's what we're working on with them. That's required us to delve back into the annals of all their past designs and stuff like that and consider those things. Carp Festival still on for June 9th and 10th. We'll be soliciting some business. We're just mainly trying to concentrate on getting the funds to offer the free or lifetime hunting and fishing license again, like we did last year. I did speak about annexation. We had our conversations about municipal fees, fire fees, sewer rates. My next step on that, on the municipal fee and fire rate conversation, is to look at it from a square footage point of view and see if we can dial those fire fees to make more sense, where a user has a larger square footage footprint would pay more compared to, a flat rate that we've looked at just off the top right now. I'm hoping to have a meeting around May 15th is my goal, 15th or 16th, to talk about code and land reuse agency. I want to get to that discussion before that doesn't become fresh in our minds anymore, and talk a little bit more about that. With all these tear downs, I think we've really got to consider our options there and make a decision one way or another how we're proceeding there. We're going to schedule a meeting for our municipal fee board, appeals board. We've got clarification from the chamber on their member now, and so we want to have that board meeting here in the next month to hear. I think we've got 2 or 3 appeals lined up for that board, so it should be a good meeting and get that stuff taken care of before July 1. And then finally, I'll say I attended the Army Corps dam safety meeting this past week. It was a dam meeting and another dam meeting, and so nothing, I won't say anything of note really came out of that. I think continued coordination with all the agencies. It was probably it was the second one I've been to, but it was a lot better than the first as far as discussion between all the agencies. And I think we're just getting more familiar with all different parties. I haven't talked to Chief Settle about this yet, but I do think that we need to consider, this is the second year in a row where we've had the discussion about abandoned boaters or boaters who have motor failure or a medical emergency on the lake. There's not currently a service that can get to those people on the lake. I mean, our fire department, I think, gets called and they make a judgment decision whether one of their ancient John boats can make a 1959 models can make the plunge and get those people back. And so I think that's, and from the conversation, it sounds like Sutton's having the same issue, Burnsville's having the same issue.
Been a lot.
Some years it does, and some years it don't. Like one year we had 8 or 10. We didn't have to do it.
Yeah.
Those grants.
We had one this year, the guy couldn't get anybody to come get it.
How to get back, do we know?
I probably got a family member. I don't know, Keith listed 911 calls, what, 4 hours later, probably 4 or 5 hours later. Probably got somebody to come and get it.
Yeah.
So
So
you need a new boat? Is that what it is?
It'd be nice if we could just work with the resort and use one of their boats.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It just seems like there's a lot of miscommunication and not the right person will get involved with the right time.
Okay.
but these things happen at random hours too. So you can't always have somebody at the dock to release a boat to you, or if they got them rented out, they're not there.
You got a Knox box we want to put up there,
Mhm.
a boat key in it. So that access.
Yeah. I haven't told Jimmy, but my feeling is we need a boat. And that's something more we got to take care of. And I know the old axiom, you don't want to own a boat, you want to know a friend owns a boat. But just, and I don't think anything really crazy, but we're looking at, probably a small pontoon boat that if they have to perform emergency dives to search for people in the lake or whatever, that I don't think we really have any base of operations at this point. And so it's something that we're going to look into. I spoke with Keith a little bit about it when you were at the damn meeting, and we're going to look into it a little bit and talk to you about it some more. But I thought I'd bring that up too from that meeting. That was the biggest takeaway for me. All right.
Thank you.
With that, I'll rest my case.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve all of the department reports.
I move to accept all reports.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, under old business, ordinance 2023-08, ordinance creating the Weston Land Reuse Agency. And there's a note request to table until special session.
Yeah, we stuck it on the agenda just to kind of keep it there fresh in our minds, but we're not ready to talk about it. I think we just want to have a special session to talk about council's further thoughts on that. So request a table until that special session.
I move to table.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, ordinance 2023-04, City of Weston purchasing card policies and financial procedures and policy. I'll entertain a motion to have the second reading of this proposed ordinance.
By title only.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'm sorry, is there a second?
I'll second.
Oh,
Randy
I'm sorry,
did.
I didn't hear you. It's been moved and second. Any discussion? We'll have voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers,
Yes.
Councilman Randy Bowen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump,
Yes.
Councilman Herb Curtis.
Motion carries.
Ordinance 2023-04, adoption of financial policy and associated procedures for handling and administrating city finances.
I'll move to approve and accept.
Very much.
Is that a
Ordinance
second?
2023.
Yeah.
04.
Maybe second.
Okay, it's been moved and second to accept, approve ordinance 2023-04. Purchasing card policies and financial procedures and policy. We'll have voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Councilman Randy Bowen,
Yeah.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump,
Yes.
Councilman Herb Curtis.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Next, update employee vacation handbook policy section.
All right, I hope your guys is red and or a different color than the black. Is it not? Is it black and white?
Can't print them in color, remember?
Somehow mine came out red, but okay, that's Judy's. I think you can see the formatting is a little bit different. Everything that's been underlined is being added. Anything struck through is being removed. This generally just follows everything that we had talked about last meeting as far as vacation policy. And I guess to reiterate,
Yeah.
the main thrust of this is that we've got employees who were hired prior to the new policy being enacted, and they have to be treated differently according to the law with the past precedents of how the city operated. And then secondly, I'm clarifying that employees that are in between that first year of service and the January 1st after their second year of service will be able to have some vacation between that period, depending on what the length of time is, and that will be based upon their number of completed months on a prorated fashion of 6.5 hours per month.
6.5 hours per month.
Yeah. 6.5 times 12 is 80. So that's what you would get. All right. I think I'm doing my math right there. That doesn't seem right, does it?
No. 6.5 hours per month.
Well, 80 divided by 12 was 6.666667. So I just did 6.5 to give them some vacation. So when you get your first year of vacation, you get 80 hours for the year served prior. Then after that, what I'd like to do is have on January 1st, following your anniversary date, you get from your anniversary date till January 1st, we'd calculate how many complete months of service you would have and multiply that by 6.5 to give you more vacation to cover your gap from that January 1st until the next January 1st, where you will get 120 hours of vacation after your second anniversary.
Well, you're making a good
I know.
call.
See everybody's eyes crossing.
Yeah. Why don't you just give them? Okay, what are you trying to solve? Like, why don't you just give people a week vacation when they start?
Because that's not what the policy is. Now I guess that's where I'm at, is
Well,
that
no, we're changing it though.
I'll change it to whatever you want to change it to. I was just trying to make your current policy work for everybody and try to be fair to everyone and everything else.
6 hours a month is a lot of vacation time.
Well, 80 divided by 12 is 6.67. That's how many hours you get per month if you get vacation monthly.
If you get 1 day per month,
If you get your hours,
you're talking hours. I'm
Yeah.
talking days. Never mind.
Yeah.
That's
sorry.
where I'm
Yeah,
hung up.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were.
because you get 80 hours per year.
I understand.
Do you two have questions?
Yes, you better as well. I don't understand why we can't go by anniversary date. Instead of prorating and everything else, if you start on November 5th, come around November 5th of next year, you accumulate your next amount of vacation and so on and so forth every year on your anniversary date, then you're not prorating.
We can do that. That's not what our current policy was. And then second of all, it's just more work for the payroll person. Every payroll, I got to check and see who's qualified for vacation, where the January 1st thing allows you to do it once and be done with it. But I will say the anniversary date would be a lot simpler at this point.
It would.
They only qualify on their anniversary date.
Yeah.
So they're not always checking only on an anniversary date.
Yeah.
Because we don't have that many employees, so they wouldn't be checking that much as far as it only when anniversary dates come up. But
Yeah.
it works a lot better than going by January 1 each year or prorating.
Just the way it's been, right, Susie, on January 1st.
Okay.
We've always been that way,
I
right? January 1st.
I know it's been a real struggle for staff to update this policy for fairness to everyone, so.
Yeah.
If,
What's your thoughts, Mayor, on the anniversary date versus January 1 of each year for vacation?
I defer to the people who have to calculate that.
Or everyone could keep track of their own time.
Personally, I like my policy. I think it's the easiest way for all of us to get through this. The proration thing may seem a little confusing, but I think when you get into it, it's relatively simple.
So you're basically giving two weeks. 2 weeks a year. Is that what you're giving?
They get 2 weeks a year on their first anniversary. Then after that, they don't get another, by our current policy, it's not clear when they get more vacation. The next time it's mentioned is January 1st after their second year anniversary. So and I keep using myself as an example here because I'll beat myself up and I'm the worst example. My hire date, January 4th, I've got 80 hours essentially for almost 3 years of work that I'll have 80 hours of vacation for. And then there's the other extreme where you have people who are hired in December who have a hard time using their vacation, which we're addressing with the vacation bank. You know, somebody who's hired on December 23rd, we've got an employee there. They have to use 2 weeks or lose it in 7 days. And impossible. Yeah.
When you came, didn't we give you 2 weeks? though?
You did.
Okay. I'm just gonna say, I don't think.
Yeah. But there's, and I'm using myself as the worst example. I'm not necessarily complaining about it, but I'm not going to be the last employee there. And that's a hole in the policy. And it could be a May employee and they're going to get 2.5 years, of only 80 hours of vacation.
So we carry over a week, 40 hours. And any vacation that isn't used, an employee should be compensated for, it, and then you move on. I mean, you got to cut off at some point and structure something that works and will keep rotating year after year.
I think you're treating employees unfairly by doing that.
By going by their anniversary date?
Yeah, and being so rigid with your you don't give them an opportunity to expend their vacation.
If you go by their anniversary date?
Well, if you do your anniversary date, that's
then it
different.
solves all the
Yeah.
problems.
And we can do that. Like I said, the only drawback is the payroll coordinator. Every payroll's got to look and see whose anniversary dates hit, if anyone's. And plenty of places do that. It's possible, but
It's not abnormal.
right.
It's not abnormal to do that.
Yeah.
I gotta let you know, I guarantee that.
So am I hearing the anniversary date now? I need to come back one more time. All right.
I take some responsibility for the mess up at the beginning. As far as going by January 1, that was a mess up.
Well, it was a good thought, but I just think it's
It's not working.
it's not something that's easily carried out with current language. Yeah.
I think going by the anniversary date, carrying over 40 hours and being compensated for any vacation not used will get you out of the rut, in my opinion.
Happy?
Just what a policy it works at this point. Stacy.
Okay. Councilman Curtis, would you like to make a motion to table until the adjustments can be made to the proposed policy?
Sure, I'll move to table the updated employee vacation handbook policy section until the next special session. Thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. In
Aye.
discussion first, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, under new business, Memorial Day Parade Event application for May the 27th. We have that with all applicable signatures, so we're ready.
I move to accept the application for the Memorial Day Parade to be held on May 27th at noon.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. Did they request help with traffic control?
Please reach out to them.
Huh?
I think we'll provide it, right?
Because last parade, Veterans Day, I stood in the middle of the street and some lady got really mad at me because she had to get to a doctor's appointment and we were having a parade.
Okay.
Do they need to request it? Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, I think it's
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the annual maintenance funding agreement for $4,400 from the Weston Flood Control Dam and Channel Operation, West Fork Conservation District. Is that the same amount or did that increase?
Yeah,
It's
the
the same
amount's the
amount.
same. Yep.
Okay.
Actually, did they tell you that the state code changed, but the amount did not?
Wasn't
Yeah.
aware of that.
I questioned it.
They have an agreement with the county as well, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the $4,400?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, paving list approval for 2024.
In your packet, you should have a Excel spreadsheet that says City of Weston FY24 proposed paving list. I think you had gotten with Mike and kind of gave some suggestions for streets. Those gentlemen went out and measured those up and developed a quantity and spreadsheet to say these would be our projected cost at 1.5 inch overlay. And then the ones that needed milled, they included a milling cost for that. I'll let you flip to your Bible here and get to the right page. I don't have a page number.
While we have a break in the action, I'd like to enter a little something into the record. Item number 2, Carl Street. Column number 3. Ending location. The address is incorrect. It's Kuntz Edition. Kuntz Drive is out by Mountaineer Mart. I'd like to enter that into the record.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not what we have.
Never gonna let it die.
No, you're not.
Two more meetings.
Got it.
It's like vacation.
So to be quick, has everybody found our list there? To be quick about it, those with every ward getting 2 streets, our total came up to about $219,000. Our current budget is about $100,000. So that was a challenge, and so I just took the ones that happen to be the least, I guess. And per our charter, we're supposed to do street works equitably between the wards, and so that kind of worked out where every ward was getting a little bit more, or getting roughly the same amount of funding, around $15,000. Ward 2 was a little bit undercut, but we've also got repairs on George and Menden that are going to be done. That'll be kind of larger cuts. That will probably be a couple $1,000s a piece, honestly, when we're said and done. So that came out to a total of $63,000. That's not $100,000 worth of work. But for right now, these were the 4 streets I thought from the list that was proposed that we could do under our threshold. And then we'd get our bidded prices, be able to compare a little bit, and then come back to the drawing table a little bit and see if we could squeeze maybe a couple alleys out or other streets with our $100,000 of paving works.
So just to understand, you're paving all of these streets?
No, just the ones that have the highlight mark on them.
Number 1,
Well, they're wards.
yeah. Weston
Oh,
Street, city parking,
Water Street parking lot was one of the ones proposed. Jonathan Street, Monroe Avenue, and Court Avenue. And again, this isn't the end all be all. I don't think we necessarily have to have council's blessing on the streets tonight or anything like that. But I just wanted to paint the picture of what we're looking at from a cost perspective for paving this year. You guys would get a good idea of what these would look like from a cost perspective for each street. And then we can move forward from there. So if there's further machinations or requests, we can take those into consideration. But I wanted to broach that with you and say, I think this is not, I think we could go a little bit higher, probably $80,000, but I think we need to hold some funds in reserve because there's $100,000 to get us from July 1 to June 30th. And so if we have a bad winter, we need extra salt. you've got to have somewhere to get those monies from. And that's typically from your paving budget. If you have a street go bad, a slip on terrace or something like that, you've got to have some funds there as well to be able to do something with. So that was kind of my policies to say, let's try to hold, 10 to 20% of this money in reserve, which 10% is only $10,000 is not a whole lot when it comes to salt or any kind of major road repairs. So I'd say somewhere around $20,000 at least is what we should hold in reserve to get us through the winter and then reassess in the spring.
I think that during our ARPA funding request that we had community meetings and the public expressed that they wanted it used on street paving. And we still do have some ARPA funding. And from the looks of things in the budget, unless we get annexation, we're not going to be able to pave streets. So I would like to put out there to use ARPA funding and pave streets. The more streets we pave, the less we're using in repairs in the way of patching and such. So I would like to propose to use ARPA funding and pave all of the requests that were submitted this year.
Well, I'm going to agree with that. I think everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But I do have a question here on the milling costs, because I know some of these roads probably aren't going to have to be milled if you just put that overlay on top of them.
I didn't
So
individually inspect each one of these, but I'm trusting the street department's judgment. That's the numbers they came up with, and we may be able to save some there, but
what do you think, Michael, would be?
We put that out there on the milling because last year we went with millings and blacktopping. But the streets that like Carl Street doesn't have curbing. I'm not sure we're gonna have to go out there and mill, but now some of that street we're gonna have to scratch, okay? And that's put a thin layer over it and go over top of it. I know Carl Street shouldn't have any milling. Let's see where else we at.
Yeah, can I just interrupt for a minute, because they're getting ready to pave up through the Narrows and 19. I don't think they're milling that road.
they are.
Are they going to mill it? Because they patched some of it.
Yeah, they're taking an inch and a half out, putting back an inch and a half.
Okay. Because they patched some spots there. So I wonder, why would you patch if you're going to mill?
You're supposed to, I don't know, it's told me, because we've got all of our drain inlets and everything, even the sanitary. We didn't have to raise.
You seen that paving up through there where
Mhm.
they paved like all the
Right,
lines through there?
right.
And then mill it back up?
That's what they told me, Debbie, was that.
Okay, I just assumed since they were, I'm not the expert on paving here. I just like to see paved roads.
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that council wants to do as much paving as possible, because Lord knows it's gone for years and we need it. I personally am in favor of the city manager's recommendation to only pave the streets at this time that are highlighted. I do agree that all of those that are on the list do need it. However, when we look at ARPA funds, we have funding that we're applying for the sanitary board, and we really don't know what our financial responsibility is going to be. At one point, it was $100,000. In another meeting, it was $600,000 for different funding mechanisms to get the infrastructure repaired. So I'd like for you to give that some thought and maybe approve the recommended at this time and keep that list as a top priority for the coming months.
My feeling is, as a way to proceed, is we'll bid it out with this list. We're hoping, we've got our fingers crossed. We didn't talk about it during the financial reports because Susie's getting ready to retire and she wasn't on top of it, but I'm just kidding, Susie. No, yeah, sure, I'll take it. But no, we're looking at our projections, and I think we projected $500,000 was our rollover, and paving bore the brunt of our cuts when we balanced our budget. So if we come above $500,000, my intention is to take that number above it and roll that into the street construction line and bring that up to whatever it is.
Well-
So I think my way forward is to bid out all these streets and then see what that number comes out to be. But I'm gonna take off my city manager hat and put on my engineer hat here. I think it's bad business, municipal engineer hat. I think it's bad business to use grant monies or one-time fundings for street paving. And I think that people get the streets that they pay for and they don't pay enough for streets. And that sounds bad and that sounds harsh, but it just, the cost of, as we've talked about with municipal fees, you know, your tonnage applied rate is super high, $135 a ton. You're just not going to get very many streets paid for that with all the other needs we have as a city. So, yeah, your $100 fee, that's 3 fees, doesn't pay for a ton of asphalt at this point in time.
On the other hand, we are to represent and be good stewards of the citizens, and we asked their opinion and they gave us their opinion. And
And
they
I
wanted
attended those
a
meetings and
street
I
sweeper,
did-
and they
yeah.
wanted streets paved, and they wanted cameras, which we are giving them that. So my point is, we gave the sanitary board a lot of money. Sanitary board is looking at increasing fees. My suggestion is to go ahead with the streets that we had planned on paving, all of the streets.
We didn't
and
plan
all
on
of
any of
it.
these streets. These were streets you all recommended you'd like to pave. There wasn't a plan per se. These are city council's requests.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is my recommendation, if, to use your words, if
Yeah,
you feel better
Sure.
about
I do.
that we pave all of the recommended streets. Council has gone to the citizens, and that's where we come up with the list
That's fine.
of paving. So that is my recommendation, still to use ARPA funding and pave the streets.
I just wanted to add, we're relying on ARPA funds, these one-time funds, as far as helping the sanitary board, but the funds got to be earmarked or used in a certain amount of time. When are we going to know what the cost is, or what we need to cover for the sanitary that you guys are speaking of? I mean, we don't have years to come to hold the ARPA funds to see what we're going to need.
When we apply for anything, the first thing they ask is, how much ARPA funding can you contribute?
And I believe that's unfair on the funding mechanisms.
It is.
So it is very unfair position to put everyone in. So that's another reason to move forward and pave some streets.
And then as far as citizens not paying enough, I know the municipal fee hasn't been raised for many years, but citizens haven't gotten much over the years.
They haven't.
And the problem is we're playing catch up now from where nothing's been done for
Agreed.
so many years, and it's putting everybody in a bind. But I think your infrastructure is where everything starts, to bring in new business, to maintain what we have.
And I feel everybody's plight. As a municipal engineer, I've felt there. I lived on a dead end street that was never going to get paved. I've been there, sucks. But a street isn't an economic driver either. You know, and I think that you've got to realize you're investing in an asset that's going to depreciate very quickly. And so you've got this one-time slush fund of federal dollars, and they put those into something like a street, to me is a scary proposition. We've already put $200,000 of ARPA monies, 10%, 20%, whatever that works out to be. We've done that, and to put more of that into paving so that we can subsidize our municipal fee and not raise it up to cover the ongoing maintenance. This roads need investments annually. You can't escape it. You know, we need $200,000 to $250,000 a year invested in roads. And
Exactly.
we haven't had that. And so,
We've never had a good plan.
sure.
No, these roads haven't been paved for 40 years.
We're always slaying pavement at roads, and we're not fixing drainage and drop inlets and
Yeah,
things that
I agree.
underneath that needs to be fixed before the pavement.
Agreed.
I think those should be addressed as we move along with the paving, is drainage issues and a
Yep.
drop inlet here and there. I know we can't fix it all, but it would definitely help as far as how long the pavement would last, and moving on to, making our city look a little better for new business to come, or whatever it
Sure.
may be. But
So how would council like to move forward?
Can I ask one more thing?
Sure.
Sure. Okay, so if we go through and we figure out what needs to be milled and what doesn't need to be milled. Right, Mike? Am I correct on that? So if we can take any of that cost there and add into that 62,000 in terms of payment instead of millings.
Yeah.
Okay. And we get our estimate. Could we not go back if it comes like, say, cause is 113, is that high end for payment right now?
That's, I would think would be low end.
Or is
That's
that
what our
low end?
bid price was last year. We ended up paying $135 a ton. And I think 1.5 inches is, you know, Mike did the right thing. He's estimating what an overlay should be, but we didn't have any streets that got 1.5 inches last year. They ended up with 2, 3, 4 inches.
And some of that was
On
on
average.
us for not
Yeah.
overseeing that as well.
And it may be the condition of the streets too, that
Exactly.
they demand that.
These streets are all in bad shape.
Yep. They usually cost more to do, you know, we're trying to estimate them and compare apples to apples, but it may be a lot more.
But what I'm saying, if it would come in less than 100,000 that we would need to take from ARPA, could we set a limit there where we would still have what we have 700,000 in there right now?
Yeah, and you got
that
about
means
636, I
and
think, if I
that-
remember right. Yeah.
Well, I
Since
was
it's
just going by what?
some things we
the-
haven't moved over, but yeah.
Okay, well, I was
yeah,
just going by what
yeah, fair enough.
what the thing was. And I was gonna say, well, that would still leave us at 600,000.
I mean, it's completely your prerogative. I just think it's bad business to pave streets with those kinds of funds. And like I said, I told Mike as much. I said, there's nothing personal. I said, if council suggests that, I'm going to push back because I just, like I said, it's an ongoing maintenance thing and they last a good road. I was looking at the road out in front of CVS and nothing against Department of Highways, but the road's already cracking because of the base conditions. You've got trenches where they put differential, they put concrete in next to asphalt. Those things move differently. In 5 to 6 years, that road's going to be rough again. And that's where they're headed without some preventative maintenance such as crack sealing and things of that nature. And so those are investments that we're not even making in our streets that we just paved. And so the clock is quickly ticking on the streets that we just paved.
Well, I
So-
think those streets get a lot more traffic than what these roads in the neighborhood are gonna get.
Yeah, and they may last longer,
So,
but
I mean, you can't go by that.
I
with the amount
can.
of traffic.
I still say that we use ARPA funding and we pave everything that's on this list. That's my opinion.
Make the motion, I guess.
I think Councilman Bowen would like to say something.
So we went way over budget last year on paving. So we're just gonna keep spending until Sandy's bag's empty. And then what do? We spend all this money and get it spent because we got it. And we got a one-time purchase that we really need, and we don't have any money because we've been doing things with it that we should be doing anyway with our general budget. So I mean, we all voted to give way too much last year and we did it, and I think we need to curtail spending a little bit. It's not going to be great times forever. $705,000 doesn't go very far when things start getting ugly.
I think what some of us are getting at though is outside the sanitary board discussions we've had of where these ARPA funds in big amounts would go to. You
Yeah.
know, the riverfront park and everything else, we're just don't seem that has as high of importance as infrastructure.
I'm going to be devil's advocate for a second and say, if you had a tourist attraction in Riverfront Park, that would bring people to town. But paving 4th Street up Buck Hill, we've already paved that one, so I'm picking on it.
Right.
That's not bringing anyone to town, right? That's just something that's good for the residents, and I'm fine with helping out the residents. But I think that's, to me, those things should be done under general expenditures, kind of like Councilman Bowen recommended. And we've got to figure out that picture, because as soon as ARPA runs out, we're going to be back to $100,000 a year, best case scenario.
That's why we
Yeah.
should have already been on our game and working on annexation and everything else. We've got to move. on these
Exactly.
things To create more revenue.
I don't disagree with you, but
I
I mean,
we're-
it's the magic bullet, but if you've got the bullet to shoot it, Councilman Curtis. I mean, that's the, yeah.
We need to get moving, working on these things.
I can't force anybody to annex. And I think that that's the predicament we find ourselves in as a municipality, is that we can sit there and pound the table and scream and holler as much as we can. Not that we're doing that, but we can do that as much as we'd like to. But those businesses control their own fates out there. We can't force them in under any scheme that I can find, and no scheme that the municipal league can recommend to anyone else across the state. And so that's the predicament we find ourselves in. I think we try to make that overture the best we can, but if you can get them to come in and want to volunteer, we'll sign them up. You know,
I think we should work on a little harder, quicker, to where we can have something together and get to
Yeah.
them. They're not gonna come to us.
I agree with you, and we could do more there. I'm not saying we have done enough, but
And
there's
I'm
just
not
a
saying we
lot.
haven't
Yeah,
done anything.
yeah,
I'm
I
just
agree.
saying-
Yeah, I appreciate your comments. Yeah.
Another thing, there is an urgency to get on the paving list because as we know, that fills up and we have to wait.
Yeah.
To get on the paving list. So
In the
That's
past,
why.
we've always listed our streets as this is what we're predicting. There's nothing that's locking us in here. I think the biggest component to that argument with our bidders is that they want to do large segments. So they don't want to see us to do a little patch here and a
I know.
patch here and a patch here. So I think any kind of list, we need to get the paving bid out, and I'm going to do that just so we can get in somebody's schedule with the magnitude. We'll show them these streets, and we may have to cut a little bit depending on what the number looks like or where we end up, or you guys may decide to fully fund it. It doesn't
well,
bother me
that's
one
what
way.
I'm deciding tonight is to fully fund the entire list.
Would you like to go ahead and put that in the form of a motion, please?
Can I have
Yes.
one more question though? You said you were gonna get a direct quote on all these streets, right? Not just the 4. Is that what you said?
What I would do is when we do our bids, we just list the streets and what locations they are and lengths and widths. And so at that point, all the numbers drop off and we let the bidders decide what those numbers are going to be. We don't show them our prediction. And so whatever the numbers come in at, that's what they'll be.
But what I'm saying, you're gonna put all 8 streets on
Yep,
that bid.
Correct. Right.
And then we would know an exact total.
And I think you've got to,
And also what would be milled and what wouldn't be milled. They would also figure that out, right?
we would go with off their suggestion.
But you're going to go with all 8 streets
I'll
then?
put them all
so
on the
we
bid.
can take a look at it.
yep.
Thank you.
And that way, then you could bring us a figure back and then can we reassess the cost and the payment at that point?
Sure. And hopefully we'll be close to July 1. We'll know what we've got rolling over and we can sit there and see what we've got supplemented with general
We don't
funds.
have anything rolling over in the street department. Pretty
So
sure.
our general funds, like we budgeted our unassigned fund balance. We predicted we'd have 500 grand. I think when Joe and I were looking at it, we've got our fingers crossed, along with everything goes well, that we'll be able to roll some of those funds. We'll have more than 500,000 that'll be unassigned rolling over into the next year.
And
My intention is to
we
take
can
whatever
then pave
yeah.
8 streets
we can put more streets in there.
and not have to go with the ARPA route.
It's my
Possibly.
intention. Yeah. Or not as much ARPA if we want to do all 8.
Okay, so then
Ready?
we just moved to table this, correct?
Sure. Well, just give me approval to advertise with those 8 streets and we'll move forward.
Yeah, to
Okay.
accept the
list.
I'll move to approve all of the streets, the advertisement of all of the streets presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Any discussion? We'll have voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers,
Yes.
Councilman Randy Bowen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump,
Yes,
Councilman Herb Curtis.
Yes.
Motion carries.
look how we play nice.
Oh, good discussion. Thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Removal of 10 p.m. curfew siren blast.
I'm pleading agnostic on this, so you guys have the conversation.
Well, if you remember, there was a citizen and there have been several citizens in that area who have mentioned and brought up the sound of the siren at the 10 p.m. curfew, and they are requesting that be removed. Not the 12 o'clock on Sunday siren, which is a test. That's the required test. So that's why we're here. I'll turn it over to you, Mayor.
Discussion?
I'm good.
The only thing I'll add is there wasn't enough in the grant stipulations that was used for. We got the grant for that siren, which is for a curfew siren or tornado.
No.
I'd just like to add that I don't hear.
I don't either, but I'm considerate of those who do.
I'm just joking. I can hear.
I hear it.
I usually use 10 o'clock. I know Mike's awake at that point. I can call him, talk to him a little bit.
We rather you keep comments to yourself, sir.
Counselor Rogers, would you like to take action on this?
Sure, I'll move to remove the 10 PM curfew siren blast.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? Voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers,
Yes.
Councilman Randy Bowen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump.
Yes.
Councilman Herb Curtis.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Yeah.
Next, ordinance 2023-10, creating penalties for failure to appear in municipal court.
Talk about it.
This would be the first reading, correct?
Are we having problems with people not appearing?
Yes.
I'll move to approve the first reading of ordinance 2023-10, penalties for failure to appear in Weston Municipal Court. By title only. Thank you.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved in second. Any discussion? Voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers.
Yes.
Councilman Herb Curtis. Councilman Randy Bowen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump. Yes. Councilman Herb Curtis. Yeah.
Motion carries.
Sorry. Ordinance 2023-10, penalties for failure to appear in Weston Municipal Court. First reading by title only.
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion from council to accept or reject the first reading of ordinance 2023-10. It's been moved and second to accept ordinance 2023-10. Any discussion? Voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers.
Yes.
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump. Yes. Councilman Herb Curtis.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, ordinance 2023-11 relating to nuisance dogs that create a separate fee schedule within the city's on-site citation program. That is a combination of F and G.
Okay, so Brian, I read all this stuff this weekend.
Sure.
That's why I
You're
moved
right.
so quickly on the other ordinance. Okay, it's my understanding, just so I read this correctly, that we are going to pass two ordinances. One is to increase the penalties for and address nuisance dogs. And this just isn't barking dogs. I know in other portions of town, particularly my ward, there are nuisance dogs who are actually causing damage to property. They're aggressive dogs and causing problems with other residents. So the question is that we are giving citizens an option here. We do have an on-site citation, right, with ordinance 11,
Yeah,
but we also
you're let-
have an option for them to come to municipal court as well.
And let's not mix our topics here for a second, but generally speaking, we currently have, I guess, one route to go. A policeman determines, or Marty, the building code official, determines that there's some kind of nuisance, and that's cited under our on-site citation program. Marty or the chief of police or whoever would have to, for lack of a better word, see it, hear it, observe it, write the ticket,
Right.
and the process of going to court would kick in. And what particularly with the on-site citation, a nuisance is currently housed under that program as having this various fee schedule, $100 to $250 for the first offense, $250 to $500 for second offense type thing. I just bumped everything up one more step for just for nuisance dogs only.
Okay, so
And so nothing in the on-site citation is going to change, except there's going to be an additional
fee.
different fee schedule
for nuisance barking type dogs.
Okay, for those who don't know what the existing ordinance is and what the existing practice is, that our law enforcement officers gives 2 warnings and then a fine, and the fine is $25. So. Brenda?
But now I'm confused. So the police officer goes to the home, gives the warning, what fine? The fine fee in this newspaper. But it says that these fines are at the discretion of the municipal.
I had a question about that as well. So this one that is on-site citation, I think don't you think that that needs to say, instead of at the discretion of the Weston Municipal Court, it needs to say at the discretion of the law enforcement or code enforcement officer?
No,
Okay, why is that? Why are we, so the law enforcement officer is just issuing a citation and they have to go to municipal court?
yes.
Why are we not just finding them on site? Why would this be a better option?
I think the on-site citation isn't an on-site guilty. An on-site citation is,
Well, if you roll up and the dog's barking,
I've seen, well, let's be careful here.
okay,
That's why we have court. Because you don't want the police out there, no offense to the police, saying whatever they want to say and it being presumed to be right. That's
Okay.
why we have court.
I understand that. On the other hand, what about the aggressive dogs who are running the neighborhoods and being aggressive with people?
That's
Can
what,
he
that's,
find them?
that's where, I think that's where the policeman says, hey, I see this dog running, or barking or being a nuisance or whatever. You have violated on-site citation ordinance, whatever. See you in municipal court, and we get to court and the defendant says, no, my dog's not doing that. And the police or whoever witnesses come in and say, yes, my gosh, he's barking every night, 10 hours a night. Oh, and the judge will then get to use his discretion as the judge to figure out, oh, was it one little bark? That's $200. Is he running amok and tearing up everything? Oh, that's closer to 500. That's a little more egregious than one little yelp. And
Okay.
I'm simplifying that with this, with
Sure.
just the one little yelp, but
Sure, but okay, when are we categorizing all of the nuisance dogs as just the barking dogs? What about the aggressive dogs? Because we've seen, we don't want to tie law enforcement's hands. They need to be able to address the aggressive dog when they are attacking a neighbor and the neighbor's beating them off with a lawn ornament, which has
In
happened.
that case, animal control would be called and the dog would be taken to the pound. But they would still get the opportunity to defend themselves in municipal court. For what fines.
However, animal control can only assist a law enforcement officer, a city
Right.
law enforcement, the way it stands now.
Sure, and I think that's what's. If the police roll up and there's an aggressive dog, they're gonna sit there and they're gonna call animal control, say, we've got an aggressive dog down here, come get it. Am I right, Mike? And so at that point, that dog is gonna be confiscated and taken to the pound.
I don't want to take tools away from law enforcement.
That's just due process. So
Right.
they've made an emergency decision essentially to say that dog is aggressive. We've got to get it off the street. But that owner still has due process to go to municipal court and say, no,
Sure.
my dog wasn't being aggressive. The police were provoking it or whatever reason they would have to defend themselves. They have that right and duty. And if they can't prove that, and the judge finds them guilty, the judge is going to assign them a fine for an aggressive dog, plus the cost of the dog in the kennel if they come and get it and take it home. And if they don't come and get the dog after being in the kennel, then it will be turned over to the pound for whatever they do to the dogs at the pound.
Brenda
Over
has a
time.
question. Excuse me.
Well, I.
No, you're fine.
Go ahead, Brenda. Yeah,
Sure.
go ahead.
the word nuisance is going to encompass barking or aggressive or anything. It's a nuisance is a very broad word.
We already have an aggressive dog ordinance
I think there's
that
a-
covers us, I believe, Mike, doesn't it? So you can remove it immediately or do what needs to be done immediately. I mean, if it's attacking a child, we're
Yeah.
not going to go to municipal court, you know?
I think and this is new to me too. So I've had to learn a lot in the last couple of weeks going through all this. But when you get pulled over by the police for a traffic violation, you're not guilty, right? You get a citation. And on that citation,
Usually I'm guilty.
and you may be guilty, but you have the option to check guilty or not guilty, right? And you can go to municipal court if you want to and plead your case and say, no, there was a mistake made. I'm innocent, blah, blah, blah. But the police don't decide whether you're guilty or not there. They're going to show up at municipal court if you check not guilty. And the judge is going to ask them to testify and say, is this person guilty or not? And what's your evidence? And they're going to sit there and put their hand on the Bible, whatever they do at municipal court, and give their evidence. This is the same process. It's the American justice system. These people have a right to face their accusers to a degree and to sit there and say, I've got a chance to make my case.
Or to pay the fine.
Or they can admit their guilt and check on the citation that, yeah, my dog was barking. I'm going to pay the fine and be done with this.
Okay,
So, but that's where we're at. Yeah.
sure.
They don't, no one's able to hurry barking. If they drive up and it's in the 20-minute period when the dogs aren't barking,
Sure.
then, oh, well, that person's obviously calling for no good reason. I mean, it doesn't work that way.
If I can, Brent, I believe that's gonna be addressed in H.
Yeah, I think we're trying that one.
Yeah.
No, F and G, F should be,
Sure.
No, it gives you a range, correct?
yeah, that
It
250.
starts at
It
250.
starts at 250.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. There's a range.
And I'll tell you, I've had discussions with people, they say, I don't know, these dogs are making me crazy. I don't know why it's so hard for me to pick up a phone and make a call. Now, some people are afraid of retaliation. If their anonymity is violated, I've had a person come up on my porch and confront me because my name was in the paper. So he came directly to me, your name was in the paper. And I'm not sure if the person who makes the call has to show up at court. It isn't gonna heighten tensions because it's gonna be a literally face-to-face situation. Or it might not suppress complaints before they even get moved. And I realize this is a complicated situation, but I think that needs to be looked at too. It's not.
I mean,
So these are the people who complain, no matter how bad the situation is. And like I said, there are people who are afraid of retaliation.
I think one of the general principles of court is if you don't show up, the court dismisses your claim or they file a default judgment against you. And so if you're, I mean, obviously, if you file a complaint and you don't show up, the judge is going to theoretically toss it out, and you don't get any recourse, or you don't get any remedy for the problem. And
No fine can be given on site. It's just on-site citation, and then the citation gets processed through the municipal court. That's every on-site citation. I think
That's what we're currently doing now, is what you're saying.
That's what our code says we're
Right.
doing. But let me step into a little bit more. If we cannot place our police officers in a position where they have not witnessed the crime and have to testify on the crime on their behalf,
Mhm.
and that's the challenge.
Sure.
And I've been up to the neighborhood as well, and the neighbors come out and they tell me how bad it is. So I believe them. I believe something's going on.
Mhm.
But in my 25 minutes there, the dog didn't yelp one time.
Mhm.
And so, if I'm pulled into court, I'm going to say, Your Honor, everyone told me it's bad, but I didn't hear it. And that's all I can say.
Right.
And exactly right. And I'd give them exactly what the amount of time I was there. And so I think that that's the challenge is that, and that's why we're looking at this additional step of changing where people can file a petition or a complaint that will generate a citation immediately, so that then we can bring that person into municipal court without having witnessed it ourselves. But the catch is that the person filing the citation complaint has to show up to court and say, yes, I heard a dog yelping. And then it'll be up to the judge to remedy the situation.
If they're physically unable to come, can they file a written deposition in lieu of coming?
If the court wants to take that as evidence, I think they probably could do that,
Can we do Zoom calls with court?
possibly.
I mean,
We have to make accommodations, you know,
sure.
Okay.
under the law. But that's, we've learned a lot in the last couple of months, but that's the general, that we've struggled to enforce the ordinance because you got to be there, you got to be present as an officer there to do anything about it. And outside of posting some person there all day, every day.
Which we
it's a
don't have the
challenge.
manpower
Right.
for.
And I think our police department with the limited power has tried to be up there and try to be in the neighborhood as much as they can. And I think it comes down to, we talk about the role of court in municipal court here. We're not Judge Judy, but we kind of are in the sense that we're here to remedy situations among people in the city, right? And so it's a mediator more than a judge at times, where if you have, what is too much barking from a dog? Maybe you know it when you hear it, and I believe people that, but people have different thresholds, right? So they're going to come to this judge, a mediator, and he's going to ask them, if he's a good judge, assuming he is or she is, they're going to ask good questions about, is this really blatant or not, or is this a neighbor on neighbor kind of issue? That's what their role is as municipal judges, to try to hash that out and try to find some kind of mediation point or justice. Yep.
So I'm the lightning rod.
Yeah.
He made statements to me that were blatant lies. I can see his backyard. He was claiming things about his dog that just aren't true. And I just said, he'd say something, I go, that's not true. And he'd say something else like, don't hardly let my dogs out. That's not true. They're in your yard for hours. And he would, he would just throw in these statements out. How is a judge gonna be able to sort that out?
That's
Whoever is more impressive personally. Whoever's.
evidence.
I don't do this, I'm changing my, everybody loves my dogs. She said, he said. Yeah.
Right.
That's what every day is figuring that his methods and judging. Who do I want to believe? A gentleman named Jim Tarango out of Stonewood.
Okay, now if we have our ever expanding police state presence with our cameras surveilling all the neighborhoods and all the intersections, and our desire to spend ARPA money, why don't we put something into the ordinance where we can have a mobile camera and take it and put it in the complainant's yard, point it at the dog or whatever the problem is, and surveil it for 2 or 3 weeks and enter that in for evidence. And
I think there's some Fourth Amendment illegal
and
search.
likewise everywhere else, in my opinion.
Well, I don't,
Thank you.
yeah. But I think there is specific language that you can't point it at somebody's house.
Brenda, I don't want you to be frustrated because we're not trying to frustrate you. I know. And I think you are being.
This person is waiting, this is the problem because they just don't like me, and they're doing not. So I am concerned about that, and that's why I think there should be a first warning. It's illegal for dogs to bark and bark and bark at this point. It's illegal for decades. And I think a lot of dog owners might not know, or they might move to somewhere else and not realize my dog is a problem because my neighbors are 15 feet away. So I think one chance to say, hey, this is a problem, this is your opportunity to make it better, is okay if you get them. But I'm not.
Right. And if we can't witness it, we can't even write them a citation at this point with the current law. Then
And-
that's our challenge.
And let me not backtrack, but let me kind of clear this up a little bit. Right now, this ordinance 2023-11. It deals with what is actually going to be fined to somebody who's found guilty of the nuisance barking dog or whatever. It's not a ordinance to direct how to locate or how to find or how to deal with a nuisance dog. It's the penalties for having one. You're welcome.
You're fine.
And now when we get to ordinance 23-12, that's just an attempt to provide I'll use the phrase another avenue to get somebody to address a barking dog. Is it the right avenue? I don't know. Is it an avenue? Yes. We don't. I mean, I think a policeman.
2020.
Right now, the only current avenue for it to be addressed is for a licensed officer to be there and witness the dog barking excessively, and then they can issue a citation to the owner. If they don't witness that, then they have a hard time. They can't, right? It's swearing on the Bible, they can't say they witnessed it. So this
And that's what's
provides the
happening.
avenue for homeowners to say, listen, we're down here every day and this dog's barking excessively. When you sign that complaint or that petition, police will issue a citation to bring the parties to municipal court to get that person in there. Yeah, no problem.
Welcome.
I want to speak, this is kind of, it's on the same subject, but part of my adventures in the neighborhood is we've got large dogs in small yards across the city. And we've
with
got
multiple
in it-
large dogs.
right. And we've got, basically zero any kind of health requirements, I guess, or any kind of code. When you look at our dog code, it's basically aggressive dogs. When you look at what we've got on the books, but I sit there and I see there's a huge field, and I don't want to regulate anybody out of existence here, but you've got if somebody has a dog out there and they're feeding it, watering it, and giving it a little bit of shelter, they can keep it in a cage all the time. Could they not? By our current laws? And is that a way for a dog to live? Is that going to create a dog that barks? I mean, in my experience, a dog tied up all the time is a constant yapper. And so we don't really have the code to even say to anyone there that we don't want that type of dog in our neighborhood. And so I think we've got an issue with that kind of dog care in our community and animal care and everything else. We've got dogs are our own issue, cats are too. And so to me, that's something that we've got to consider as well, is that right now we've got very few rules on the books to even help out in that kind of regulation. And maybe we want to regulate them, maybe we don't. But I think that lack of regulation is causing this issue to develop more so.
Or they're in a small cage their entire life, maybe that's appropriate for hunting dogs because they go out and have exciting times and then they come back and they can, but for other dogs, no, and I would agree. I think, the happy dogs or the good dogs we have in our neighborhood are well loved. Everybody loves them. Their owners exercise them and give them variety. They don't just when you're in a yard and put some food out once in a while.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be great if we could look into this, where dogs have good lives.
So, how do you feel about what we're doing clearly isn't working. So how do you feel about proceeding with these two ordinances and to try this? And in the meantime, work on maybe an ordinance for the quality of life and limit the number of dogs in a yard.
Address my neighbor has they're not pets, they're livestock. They throw food at them or water, that's it. They don't pay attention to these animals, they're just there. And one of them is in one of those, 8x10 cages. But, but something needs to be done to address the basics of, I guess it's, what causes all this barking? You know, I had 3 dogs. I had 4 until right before Easter, but I have 3 now. But they're inside. They're cute. I love them. And I was happy that people were moving in next door with dogs because Jerry moved out.
Right.
For John Roby, yeah.
That they came. And, but,
Yeah.
you know, it's trashy people. Stay home. But in the summertime, I can't even enjoy my yard.
Yeah.
Because the odor of the dog feces, depending on which way the wind blows, they don't ever go out and clean up their yard. Is there something that can be done about that? And one of their dogs had 8 puppies.
Yeah.
And my neighbor and I, another neighbor, we heard them. We went over and there were 8 puppies behind the shed. Okay. I go up and I pound on the door and I say, there's 8 puppies back there. She says, oh, well, I haven't seen her for a couple of days. I wondered what was going on. And they all 8 puppies died. It was cold. All 8 puppies died. And this is unacceptable. You know. I mean, and an elderly aunt who lives with me came knocking on my door because the 2 other adults that lived in the house weren't there. And she came knocking on my door and said, can you please sit with the dead puppies because the kids are going to come home from school and see. So I barely touched it. There should be something that says that you can't treat them. And there should be something that says, I have a right to enjoy my yard without the smell of dog food. Or the sound, or like, is it for, we can't talk. Yeah. Dogs are the first thing. I think they're the worst. They're the worst in our neighborhood, right? The ones next to me. Okay, now, here's in all fairness, Brenda has been complaining about this for quite some time, you know this, and she has every right to. And she would say, didn't you hear? And I said, no, I didn't. Okay. Recently, I got hearing aids. Now I hear these things, okay? So, and it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
Well, can I suggest that we have the first reading of this ordinance and try to do something about this barking dog situation? I so move that we have the first reading of ordinance 2023-12. 11, one down too many, related to nuisance dogs that creates a separate fee.
I'll second,
By title only.
and I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Any discussion? Voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers.
Yes.
Councilman Randy Bowen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump.
Yes.
Councilman Herb Curtis.
Okay, motion carries.
Ordinance 2023-11, ordinance related to the nuisance dog that creates a separate fee schedule within the city's on-site citation program. First reading, title only.
I move to accept the first reading of ordinance 2023-11.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. I have voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers.
Yes.
Councilman Randy Bowen. Councilwoman Debbie Gump.
Yes.
Councilman Herb Curtis.
Okay, motion carries. And ordinance 2023-12 for citizen petition to address barking and nuisance dogs.
Move to have the first reading of ordinance 2023-12 by title only.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion? Voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers.
Yes.
Councilman Randy Bowen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump. Yeah. Councilman Herb Curtis.
Motion carries.
Ordinance 2023-12, citizens petition to Weston Municipal Court to address barking and nuisance dog, first reading by title only.
I'll move to accept ordinance, the first reading of ordinance 2023-12 by title only.
For a second. Okay, it's been moved in second. Any discussion? Voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers.
Yes.
Councilman Randy Bowen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Young. Yes. Councilman Kirk Curtis.
Okay, motion carries. And we certainly appreciate both of your input and will continue to. Next,
up here.
we're requested to enter
Executive session.
executive session to discuss personnel.
Yep.
Would someone like to make that motion, please?
I'll move to go into executive session to discuss personnel.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You're outvoted.
What's new?
He did. Motion to exit executive session. No. You made that motion? Okay, is there a second? Okay. There's a motion and a second to exit executive session. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is request for leave for Kaylee Wetzel.
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we're narrowing down to the finish line. I handed my mayor's report out prior to the meeting. A couple of other things I want to say. The Municipal League Board meeting will be held May the 11th and 12th. I'll be attending that. It's at Blennerhassett this year. And I really would like to encourage council members, city staff, whoever's available, citizens to attend the hubcap meeting. Weston was chosen as a hubcap community, and Nate and Joe have attended. And Nate and I and Ray went to the 2-day hubcap meeting in Buchanan. And the next meeting is May the 24th at 9 a.m. at the Coffee House. I really consider the first two as kind of like a precursor to what the program's actually about. But I understand that the meeting on the May 24th, we're going to talk about team building, and we're going to talk about what projects. One includes a placemaking project in Weston. The other will be a technical assistance project. And we need to start getting those type of projects in mind. And we really need as many people's input as possible for those meetings. So if you can spare an hour or so on May the 24th at 9 a.m., we'd appreciate you coming to the Coffee House to that meeting. Please let people know about the meeting, and if they have any ideas or suggestions, encourage them to come. That's the only way that we can be successful, is to have people there. That's it for me, Ward 1.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out and providing your input. I know it took a little longer, but council and staff are more than willing to work with citizens in trying to address some of the issues that we have within neighborhoods, and I really appreciate your input. And I appreciate staff as well working to have a better community. Thank you.
Ward 2.
Well, I didn't have a microphone, so I wasn't going to say anything. I really don't have anything to add. I think we just can move forward. I think things are going along pretty well. And that's Ward 2.
Ward 3.
I yield my.
I think everyone is well coming out this evening. I think we're working pretty well as a team, moving forward and get things done. Many issues here in the recent past have been addressed, especially in my own ward, that I've requested from the city manager, and Marty and Mike and the other Mike. So I appreciate everybody and all their help and the job that they're doing. That I move to adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.